Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, journalist, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
Right, this is the first new episode of this year, and rather than focus on researching one topic, well, we thought we could do a kind of like talking about various subjects.
Yeah.
We've done this once before.
We have, it's fun.
Didn't get any feedback, either positive or negative, so who knows?
So here we go again.
Who knows? We'll just, like, if you don't like it, then I guess switch off.
Just
and
switch
just
off,
leave
yeah.
us in the dark. I don't know. Anyway, firstly, how was your Christmas, New Year?
It was so lovely. So I have my kids every other year because they go to their dads every other year. And my partner does the same. And we've managed to work out that so this year, neither of us had kids. So we have a very busy run up to Christmas because my twins have their birthday. He has his birthday and we have pre-Christmases because the kids are going away.
Wow.
And then we did absolutely nothing in an Airbnb for 4 days. It was absolutely brilliant.
And all the other parents are just going, oh,
yeah, I know.
if only.
I'm so smug. I don't care. My life is all or nothing. So I relish the nothing.
No, well done you. I think that's just take the moments when you can,
Yeah.
enjoy them, run with them. And good for you. Very happy for you.
How about you, Rach? Thank you. How about you?
Oh, well, our Christmas, New Year was kind of what we've been doing a lot recently because, and I've mentioned this in our podcast before, I felt the pressure of Christmas a lot when my kids were younger, trying to make it perfect.
Yeah.
You see all these images of what Christmas was. And if you didn't really have a Christmas you liked, or you didn't really do Christmas, it can be a bit sort of like, what am I supposed to do? How does this work? And also, I think parents now will just be looking at the elf on the shelf and then, and then also adding to that when they become teenagers, how do you adjust all of this and make it something, still make it special because of course their things have moved on and their beliefs have moved on. So we basically wear pajamas until midday, then we cook something easy and play games. Yeah. And it's very, very, very relaxed. And I think it's very special. My kids think it's very special because it's the only time of the year when we're completely present and there are no pressures to do anything else. And it's very special because of that.
Yes.
And what's really interesting is I saw lots and lots of parents saying, oh, it's so stressful on social media. But I did see, and I kept wading in saying, please, please, please don't put this pressure on yourself. Make it what you want it to be, particularly parents who've perhaps lost someone in this last year. It's very, because they say, well, I want to keep it the way it was, and it's not going to be the same, and it's very difficult. So what was wonderful is I saw another lady called, I think her Instagram is Fantastic Brains, Alternative Brains, and she said, oh, we've just done a Christmas that's completely different from the way it was before, and it's the way we wanted to do it, and it was wonderful. So I just want to say there are more of us out there. Just wing it. Do it the way you want to do it. Yeah. If you don't celebrate Christmas, just make time for your family where it's something, and design it the way you want it. And ask your teenagers.
Yeah, and you're right.
Because do things.
Yeah, you're right. Because it is a few days where everything stops. Yes. So however you celebrate, it doesn't matter, does it? It's just appreciating that.
But having that kind of that time when you can actually just go, oh, well, so having said that, I know marriages that are broken down when they've actually had to spend time together over Christmas and go, actually, I don't like you.
It's a challenging time too, for sure. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And for me, one of my daughters went to Italy over New Year, which is a new thing. I haven't actually, we've always been together at New Year. Okay. And I wondered how I was going to feel about it. Actually, it was just lovely. She didn't even message me Happy New Year. But I didn't mind because I knew that she was with a great friend group. And then I also inspected it and thought, why am I not worried about her? Because my bonus daughter, when she was with us and she was going out to nightclubs when we were on holiday, I basically spent the whole night awake until she got home feeling just scared, really, really scared. And I put it down to the fact that we have a very open, honest relationship and we talk a lot. Don't you think it matters? That if you actually talk a lot and you understand how the other person thinks, you're much less scared.
Yeah, definitely. Because you think that that they're, and also it depends on the child, doesn't it? If you have a sensible child, basically, and with good communication, the fear shrinks dramatically.
Yes.
I mean, I think my kids are all very different, and stuff happens, of course, however good your communication is, for me anyway, and from my perspective, stuff still happens, of course it does, but it's how can we carry on the communication and bounce back again, and that also takes away some of the fear, because that it's temporary.
Exactly. And I think that's because I think the fear often hits us as parents.
Yeah, we panic. It's
because we've been so much in control of their lives, and as they're branching out and going and meeting new people and doing things. I saw a dad who basically spent he'd gone to the nightclub an hour early to pick up his daughter, and just watching people going in and out, being really scared.
Yeah, and it is. Because it's our basic need for certainty, isn't it?
Yes,
we don't like uncertainty.
Yes.
We don't know how they're going to respond to everything, and we don't, because they're their own people.
Exactly. Now, we always do a nugget. Well, we don't always do a nugget, but let's do a nugget. Do you have a nugget?
I do have a nugget. So my nugget is so as we have teenagers, all of us listening, I'm sure still, otherwise you wouldn't be listening probably, would you? They want to do generally less with family, and I always have like a mantra in my own head anyway, that is like, if they want to do something, they suggest something, or they ask you to do something, do it, because they might never ask again, which can go the other way.
Yes.
But so my daughter this year, she just had before Christmas, she suddenly had loads of really lovely ideas. She wanted to go and see a show in London, which she's actually doing for GCSE. So not like a typical entertainment one. It was really fun. And then she wanted to go and see the Christmas lights. I'm like, can we do that, Mum? And then my twins have their birthday just before Christmas. Can we go to London? Can we do this? And obviously, you can do it in various ways. We didn't actually spend that much money on it. And I just went yes to all of it.
Love
and then
it.
told
and then you have fun.
We had so much fun. And then my 18-year-old, who's done his first term at uni, was coming back. I said, we're going to do these things, you're really welcome, but please, if you've got other plans, it's completely cool. He's like, no, I'll come. So we did all these really cool fun things, because I'd just gone yes. And I mean, credit to her, she had the ideas. We just kind of went with her.
But then they'll probably come up with more ideas, because they can see that it's something you can do.
And it's not that long ago I was kind of dragging her to do stuff.
Right. How interesting.
Yeah, really interesting.
So keep the faith. It can change.
Yeah, that's my nugget.
Mine is that my daughter is absolutely wonderful. She's really stepping up recently in helping around the house. And I brought back some bags, and I said to her, would you mind just popping that stuff in the pantry? So off she went to the pantry. The next day I went in the pantry, and the stuff was just kind of randomly put all over the place. And I called her back and said, darling, this was, thank you so much. It was great. Here's a top tip for life. When you walk into a room, any room, think, is there a rule here? Because mostly there are rules, and try and work out what the system is. And in this pantry, all the tins go up here on the right-hand side, and she'd put them all over the place. So I said, so the thing is, just look, and if you had stopped for a second, you would have seen that you could have just popped the tins there, and it would have saved a lot of hassle for me, because now I've had to rummage through everything to try and find stuff. She went, oh, yeah, okay. And I thought it was really useful, because I think if it's not done in a confrontational way, and you're just saying, hey, here's a top tip, then it can often land really well, and it's something that she can use in all sorts of other circumstances. I've talked before about how life is full of rules, and we can, if we know they're there, we can choose to ignore them. You don't have to always follow the rules. In fact, some of them are really stupid, and teenagers hate those, but it's worth understanding that they exist.
She'd be fine in my food cupboards.
I'm quite anal. I have a whole, my flour has to be stacked, and so I want self-raising here. If somebody puts the wrong flour in the wrong place, and it's not constant. It's just that I just get a bit.
You like to know where things are. I'm reorganising mine. Otherwise, I'm at the. I can go where you open the cupboard and things fall out kind of systems.
Oh, that's where that is.
Yeah, ow.
No, I get overwhelmed if there's too much stuff.
Yeah.
So I wondered, I've been listening to a few podcasts. Have you got any that particularly have caught your...
Yeah, I love listening to podcasts, and I don't know, I think it's a bit like breakfast, isn't it? I do I eat the same breakfast for ages, and then I get bored and change. So my podcast is a bit like that for me. So what am I listening to at the moment? I go in phases of her because I find her too much sometimes, but I think Mel Robbins is brilliant. I think she's absolutely brilliant. And she's quite sort of in your face, I guess. So sometimes I'm like, I need a gentler approach. But she's super inspirational, and she comes with really concrete, good ideas, and she's very real and down to earth,
which is fantastic.
And she has older kids. She talks about them. It's mainly for, about us as adults, but she talks a lot about her kids, and they're a little bit older, but they're still within the teenage bracket. And actually I got an idea from her once of, asking your kids for feedback, which was really interesting. And I have done that, which was very interesting. Who else I listen to? So I'm doing some creative stuff at the moment. So I listen to one about, what's it called? The Unpublished podcast, which is amazing about, and it applies to all of us because we are all creative, but in our culture, we sort of divide it into people who are good at it and not good at it. And from a very early age, we label, I can't do art, which is, in my opinion, absolute beep. So, embracing the idea of being creative is super, super important for us as human beings. And they're very much on that. She's a writer, but they're both writers, very much just do it.
Yes.
Just get out and do it. It doesn't matter.
No. And I think that stops for us a lot doing all sorts of like sports and things where you think, I'm not very good at that. And actually, if you think I'm going to, because I've started, I signed up. I haven't signed up to learn paddle because my tennis is awful. Yeah. And I've got to the age where I know it's never going to be particularly good and it's too embarrassing to be really bad. Yeah. But I know that I probably get some joy out of playing a sport like that. Yes. And so I'm having a go.
Amazing.
Yeah, they keep cancelling it, but it's okay. I'll get there.
I've heard a lot about paddle and how much fun it is. I'd like to try that.
I speak to lots of people who love it. Yeah. My podcast, there's one that I love. I'm kind of, I come from a business background, my journalism, so I love dipping into what's going on in the world of the people who are sort of driven into business. And so there's one which is by the BBC called Good, Bad Billionaire, which I've sent to teens. And it's so interesting because it's how the billionaires became billionaires. And are they good or bad people? For example, Rihanna, proper rags to riches story. Denise Coates, who was a woman in the UK who made about $280 million in the year to March 2023 from betting income. So you'd think, wow, that's a really nasty industry and it's making money off the backs of people who are addicted to betting. But she's kept her business onshore in the UK and she pays tax on every single thing she gets, which is rare for billionaires. So, you kind of look at it and go, okay, so how did they get there? And there's one, I've forgotten his name, Feeney, I think it is, who set up, when you go through airports and you get to the supermarket bit, like the shopping mall where it's all glitzy and it's basically a shopping mall. He created that with another guy, and he's not strictly a billionaire. He died recently because he gave away literally everything he ever made. Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
So
that is incredible.
Very interesting.
That's
Lots of interesting people on it. Yeah. Another one, Everything is Fine, podcast for women over 40. Just a couple of really great, intelligent, entertaining American women, one of whom has a 13-year-old. So she's in the trenches. Yes. So that's very fun and interesting to listen to. And I always find that they're spot on when they're talking about things. So top tips there. We'll put those links in the podcast.
Interesting. Thanks. Yeah, that's good.
Books? Any books?
Books. I finished. Yeah, no, I can't come with any book recommendations at the moment. But I did watch, which is book related. I binge watched The Hunger Games with my...
Did you?
Yeah, because my daughter was desperate to see the new one, and I hadn't seen any of them because I'd always thought, I really want to read them, and I never got around to reading them.
We all do that, don't we? I'll read it.
So we binge watched the films, and I just thought they were brilliant.
Interesting.
I really enjoyed the first one, and then we went to see the new one in the cinema. I was like,
nice.
That was fun, which was really dark, but good. Yeah. So book, but not book.
I haven't watched those at all. I've read a book. I haven't finished it yet. It's called Do Hard Things, A Teenage Rebellion Against Low Expectations.
Okay.
And I love it. It's quite Christian. So if you're not Christian, you might want to flick through the pages mentioning bits in the scriptures. But it's written by two teens, Alex and Brett Harris. And I think they're onto something. They talk about how they started out posting a series of articles, and the first was called The Myth of Adolescence. And what they do is they call into question the modern notion of the teen years as a time to goof off. And when they posted their first kind of piece, they said they had an overwhelming response from other teenagers saying, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Everyone I know at school is shackled by low expectations. And I thought this was a really interesting concept because they talk about various people, like this girl who was 11 who started nursing her brother, who then ended up nursing other people in the community, and she had set up the Red Cross eventually. And they're talking about people who started out in their teens doing things, really interesting things, and eventually went on to do great things. And their argument is that they feel that teen years are being sold to us as a time when you can party and have fun, and then the adulthood starts. And it's really interesting because I was thinking about that the other day and thinking, if we make adulthood look like the time when you do all the really responsible things and you let the kids have fun, then the teens aren't going to want to grow up, are they? Because they're going to think, well, actually, I don't want to do that. That looks awful. Whereas if you sort of slowly emancipate them and say, you know what, you're now able to do this. It's your job now. Then they kind of get used to the fact that they're responsible and that they can do the stuff. And
that sounds interesting. What's the book called again?
It is called Do Hard Things.
Do Hard Things.
A Teenage Rebellion Against Low Expectations. I was underlining lots and lots of things. I thought it's fascinating. And I think we should do a podcast on that. One other thing that's a really cool app that's really useful for us parents. I don't know what's happened with you, but with me, my older daughter said to me she hadn't booked her dental appointment, and I've handed those things to her. I've said, you talk to the doctors now, you book your dental appointments. If you want me there, I'll come.
Amazing.
But you're responsible and it's really important. And I said to her, why haven't you booked your dental appointment? She said, oh, because you've got the calendar. I don't know, like, when are we doing these things?
Yeah.
And I thought, she's so right.
Yeah.
So I was at the boot camp that you told me about that I now go to. And there's a lovely lady who runs it so I ask around all these great opportunity. When you meet other people, just say, hey, has anyone got a solution to this? And she told me about TimeTree. TimeTree, which is an app which I've now downloaded, and I've sent a link to everybody in the family, and we're now putting our family things on it. And she puts on it, when her partner's coming to stay, or when she's when she's got a dental appointment. Brilliant. And now we can all see.
I've tried other ones in the past, but they, for various reasons, they haven't worked. TimeTree, I'm going to look that one up.
It's a revelation.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Hunger Games. I've been watching an amazing thing on Netflix that the family are gripped by. It's called Frontline, and it's about the World War II. And what they've done is they're covering the World War II, but they've coloured all of the images, all the film, and they've got film of all sorts of things. And you feel like you're watching the news.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell you how incredibly gripping it is. And what's in addition to that, so lots of the battles, lots of the bits where the tanks are rolling into places, they're all on film. It's incredible. Wow. But what's even more extraordinary is what they're doing is they're taking voice from, say, a Japanese person who was a Japanese fighter, who would give you their viewpoint.
Wow.
This was how we saw it. The Germans would say, this is how we saw, the Battle of Stalingrad. That's what was happening at the time. Or people, when the tanks rolled into Poland, what were they thinking? And honestly, it's gripping.
Amazing.
We've nearly watched all of them. It's just great. So I highly recommend it.
I'm going to try that one.
I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's talk about a great topic you mentioned. Going back to school. Going back to school.
I'd forgotten. Going back to school. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? We're all in that right now. We've gone back. I think it's different for us as parents and as parents, like for the kids, like probably most kids, I'd say 90-something% don't want to go back to school.
Yeah.
And that's completely normal, isn't it? So how do we help them with that? Give them the space to have a good old moan and, I don't want to go to school. Of course you want to be on holiday forever. That's quite normal, isn't it? And give them the kind of, invite them to find something interesting and fun so that momentum starts building as well. It's a tricky balance sometimes, isn't it? And it depends on your kid. Some are much happier to go back, and I think it depends on how they how they do in school and how they find school, because if it's challenging for them, of course it's not much fun to go back, is it?
No.
But if they're really good in school and it's, it ticks more boxes for them, then it's less challenging to go back. So managing them, trying to find. So one of my kids was like, I don't want to go to school. Nothing. So there's nothing you want to do in school. And not in a sarcastic way, but there's absolutely nothing that's fun in school, like 100% nothing. No, that's right. Correct. Nothing. Okay. Break time, lunchtime, your friends. And there was honestly like a nanosecond of a glimmer, which I grabbed. I went, so your friends. Yeah. So right now, just focus on your friends. Then that will get you through the morning. Just focus on that, and then we took it a step further and said maybe you can feel a bit grateful for your friends, not in a kind of cheesy puke in a bucket kind of way, but in a, it's actually really lovely. You have these friends; they're really lovely. Can you find a little glimmer of gratitude for that you have them, and they could, and I think I like to tell myself it helped through the first day. Probably just giving me lip service, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
But it's fine finding just the tiny things, and then they have momentum, and then suddenly they're fine and they're back, and it's all good again.
Yes, and I think it's really, really important that we encourage them to find positive things about school. I've got a link that I'm going to put in to the notes, and it's a chart about how to cope with emotional refusal, because there is this sort of, there are some kids where they go in and they're told, well, just get them into school and then they'll be fine. Yeah. And they're not. No. And so, yes. So if you're wondering whether your child's that one or different, then, because my kids, one of them, when she was going through a really tough patch in school, I'd say to her, you don't have to go into school. I'd like you to go into school. And she said, no, I'm going to go in, because she knew that it would just build up if she didn't actually go in and face whatever she was fearful of. Yeah. But that was her, and not all kids like that. No, and it's about coping mechanisms, isn't it?
Kids respond very differently. So some you can give a really great pep talk, but you've got this today, and you've got this, and they go, oh yeah, actually that's great. For some, if you give that pep talk, they're like, get stuffed. That sounds hideous and makes it even worse. So you have to pick your conversation right.
And I think communicating with the school if there are issues, it's always worth it, even when they're older. I think it's worth it. It's really interesting because I saw some PISA scores, which I mention all these things on social media. Whenever I see stuff, I just put it up on the stories. So my Instagram is full of little tidbits I find here and there. And PISA scores are, these are scores that are taken by the OECD countries. They measure 15-year-olds' ability to use their reading, mathematics and science knowledge and skills to meet real life challenges. It's very interesting because the latest scores, bit of a shit show, really. And what's interesting is the Asian countries seem to be powering away, and France, for example, has plummeted in terms of maths, which has shocked the government. And actually Macron said, right, we need to do something about this. And what really I thought was really interesting was that in Japan, I think it was Japan, where what they did was they scheduled after COVID, because we know that this has had a terrible, terrible impact on all of us. And after COVID, they scheduled extra time around the school curriculum to make up for the time lost. So what they did was they shortened the holidays a bit. They squeezed either end on holidays, and they changed the school day to try and make sure that the things that were very important were covered. And I just think it's really interesting because I think one of the big problems we've got now across a lot of Western countries is that we don't have strong school attendance. We've got massive problems with it. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. One of them is people just going, well, what's the point? What are they teaching them? Is it relevant? There's that. And that's a problem governments are going to have to face, whether they like it or not. And I think mental health is obviously a massive problem now, and I don't think there aren't enough resources in the schools. I
think resources in general.
Yes.
I think it's really interesting to compare countries when we look at statistics. I think it's really important and really interesting, and I think it's so nuanced that, to compare our culture to Japan is so has so many. It has so many differences culturally, socially, economically, that, the idea of in England putting, shortening the holidays to put in extra work. To me, that doesn't sound like a great solution. If it's worked in Japan, great. But I imagine that's because they have a completely different work ethic. They have a completely different school system. Like financially, the schools are pretty screwed at the moment here. So who's going to pay for that, for starters? Secondly, you know, I would disagree that the kids, maybe they need more of a break, and maybe we can change how we spend the time within the school so that they're resting and becoming resilient in different ways. I think it's super interesting to compare countries, and it's so important that we have the whole picture, which is also hard to know what the whole picture even is.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'd mentioned Japan was more that I think there's a cultural shift in people saying, well, why does it matter if my kids are in school?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes,
because that's what's happened. That's what's emerged off the back of this.
Yeah.
And part of it is to do with, well, are we teaching the right things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really good conversation to have. And I think people shy away from it, go, you know, school refusal is a big problem, like you've talked about quite a lot. It's a big problem. But instead of just trying to get the kids back into school, which is super important, of course, we need to also discuss, well, you know, is there a bigger picture here? What's going wrong that they so much don't want to go? And maybe COVID shed a light on, you know, I've heard of parents going, yeah, but, you know, it's made us really think, you know, we just presumed that they should go to school all the time and never question it. And now people are questioning it. And that's always a good thing. It might feel really uncomfortable while we're questioning, because sometimes things get brought up that we don't like, and systems need changing and structures need changing, but the questioning is always a good idea.
Yeah, and I just don't know if the governments are capable of coping with this massive shift.
No, and I mean, there's a huge problem within the school system in lots of different ways, and the teachers are always amazing, but the system is flawed and old-fashioned, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Third places. Have you heard of these?
Only just from you earlier.
I think it's a really interesting concept.
Super interesting.
Yes, I looked them up because I saw someone on Twitter saying, I really miss the third places. And she said, I'm an introvert and I don't find it easy to go and meet people. I don't really enjoy spending too much time with people, but I really need human contact and I need to be in places where there are other human beings. And so she talked about third places and she said, I miss them. They've been disappearing. And I thought, oh, really? What are they? So in sociology, the third place refers to social surroundings that are separate from home and work. Those are your first and your second spaces. And we're talking about churches, bars, clubs, community centres, public libraries. We know a lot of these places have closed down, bookstores. And this is these are the places that give civil society and an engagement, you know, a sense of place.
Yeah.
And she was saying she's seen that just they're just going. And it was a fascinating podcast I was listening to, which the podcast is called Search Engine, and they were talking about why can't we turn office spaces into accommodation when we've got all this shortage? And, you know, it's hard, it's difficult, it's a long story, but you can listen to the podcast. But one of the things they said we used to have 3,000 shopping malls in the US. It's now shrunk to 300.
That is shocking.
It's a shocking number. And it's, you know, you could say, well, it doesn't really matter. Nobody wants to go to shopping malls. That's where I used to go. That was my third place. When I was a teenager, I was very lonely, living in this tiny little village, no friends. I think I'll catch a bus and I'll go and hang around the shopping mall.
And you feel like you're part of something a bit bigger.
There's something going on.
So maybe now it's more, if you have a hobby, an activity, you go and have a third space, don't you? Like if you're in an amateur orchestra or a choir or a sports centre, you go and play tennis or something like that. But actual other one, if you don't actually have a specific activity, then it's much more vague.
And then you're online. I mean, one lady said, you know, I'm part of the gaming community. That's my third place. So that absolutely can count as that. Absolutely. But a lot of people are away from these social spaces, and she's noticing it. And I thought, gosh, she's, you know, canary in the cage there. That's a really good point.
So interesting, isn't it? Because you do have, like, going to the library, you have little chats with people, and that just kind of feeds you for the
just even going in the shopping. Everyone's busy trying to get out as quickly as they can from the co-op, so they don't want. And you know, there are some shops where they've had a one specific till for old people to come and talk.
I love that.
What a great idea!
I love that. Yeah,
I'm going to put my daughter on it. She loves talking to old people. Manners in society. That's another one that interests me. So actor Andrew Scott revealed that he paused his performance of Hamlet after an audience member opened their laptop to answer emails. What? How did we get to it? Because you think about it. Okay, I don't know when the last time was that you went to the theatre. I don't go very often. It's it's expensive.
It's expensive, yeah. That was the one of my daughter's activities for her GCSE book. It was great.
So
it was expensive.
It's expensive. It's also, very intimate. It's a very kind of, you're in this environment, you're engaged environment. It's not like watching the cinema. Being in the cinema, it's actually, you're in a special space with all these other people breathing the same. I don't know, it feels very intimate. And for someone to do that would annoy me so much.
Actually, people behind us were noisily unwrapping sweets, which I was really practicing all my skills on, and I did turn around and glare at them. They didn't notice the glaring. So annoying. But I mean, I've played in millions of concerts over the years, and phones ringing, or people talk sometimes, and you just go, really?
Yeah, and I've had that in this cinema recently where I went with the whole family, and this couple at the end of the row were just getting noisier and noisier, chatting. And it annoyed me so much that eventually I just turned to them and said, "Will you shut up?" And my daughters were horrified because I'm not a shouter like that mostly. And and the guy tried to lean across and say something to me, and the man behind stepped in and went, "Whoa!" So there was silence after that. But it's really interesting because the question I'm sort of trying to raise is, have we as adults lost our ability to behave in a well-mannered way when we're out in society? And what are we telling our teenagers how to behave? Are we teaching this stuff? Because if they're not getting any practice because they're at home and they're not going out and seeing friends and they're not spending time with people, how are they supposed to know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, like, if you don't go to concerts, if you don't go to it's the first time you've been, how do you know what's right and wrong? And I think sometimes we sort of catastrophize it and say that everyone's got dreadful manners, or nobody knows what to do. Isn't this awful? The world's going to end, kind of thing. Whereas actually it's just, they just need to be told, actually, do you know what? When you're at the theatre, don't do that. And make sure you don't, wait, I don't know, in music, get to the end of the whole piece. Don't clap between movements, kind of thing. But then I always think, well, you can also be a bit anal about stuff.
Well, I just think that, but if it's going to interrupt the enjoyment of people, because actually I think with those specific situations, it's the onus is on the theatre company or whatever to make an announcement at the start and say, so by the way, can you put all your devices away? This is, we just want to enjoy the performance. And if they don't enforce it, then they're just going to find people don't go back because they just end up thinking, well, that was rubbish because he stopped in the middle.
I think it's usually probably because people don't know what the so-called rules are, rather than they're trying to be arses, I would think. Yeah. Well, a bit like, why are you answering your emails in the middle? Maybe he should have just left. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he didn't enjoy Hamlet. Maybe he thought it was dull.
But then just leave.
Yeah, but then you're walking out in the middle, aren't you? Which is also a bit rude.
My husband's done that before. That was, I won't even go into it, but it was one of the
people
most
walking out in the middle of a concert
things.
is mortifying when you're playing.
Yes.
It's like, really? Unless, you almost want them to come back and go, it was because...
Oh, I'm sorry that's happened.
I mean, it was a big orchestra. I didn't take personal responsibility for it.
Ouch. Well, one last thing. Vaping and snus. Because we mentioned that before. It's snus.
Well, that's the Swedish.
Okay, they laugh at the English kids. They're like, "What are you saying?" And I said, "It's snus," and they call it snus. And I go,
snus,
okay.
Yeah, it would be snus.
I have been hearing a lot more about it. I don't know what it's like across the world because we have got listeners all over the place. But starting with vaping, the Grocer magazine, which is the magazine that's for all the people in the kind of grocery field. I subscribe to it because I'm that kind of loser. Had a headline that vaping sales more than doubled to 1.7 billion in 2023.
Whoa, that's so horrible.
The Times also had an article written by their senior investigative reporter about how tobacco giants are bankrolling secret pro-vaping campaigns, allegedly. Manufacturers have links to doctors. Scientists are actively promoting e-cigarettes.
Great.
And ironically, here's one for the books. Fruity flavoured vapes. I didn't know this before. They're banned in China's domestic market. Did you know that?
No,
but they're very happy selling them over here. So Elf bars and Lost Marys and the things that are really popular over here, all those candy flavours, not allowed in China. They're just sending them across the water to all of us, right?
It's like Silicon Valley people not giving their own kids phones, isn't it?
Exactly. And environmental impact is horrific. There are single-use vapes. 1.3 million are being thrown away each week in the UK.
Oh my goodness.
Each week.
That's hideous.
And you think about each one of those, it's got chemicals in it, but it's also got a battery and all the, the like things that are in the battery.
God, that's really having an impact, isn't it?
Yes. So I have seen some people saying, we should have recycling bins for vapes in the school. No.
Yeah.
No. How about adulting for a while and just say no?
Yeah, let's not have them, guys.
But I have I sort of had the opportunity with a lot of teenagers this New Year's, and I sort of said to them, "So guys, what's the deal with the vaping, snus? What's going on?" And they said, "Yeah, snus is becoming really big."
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes, and the ones I spoke to said, "Yeah, you know what though, their gums bleed, it makes you vomit." Blah, blah, blah.
It's really strong. I had a conversation with one of my kids about it, and they've tried it, and I have a friend, because we've kind of found a couple, and I went, you're not doing that, you. I didn't quite word it like that. But that doesn't feel very nice. It's really, they're really strong. They're not very nice.
Yes. And I think one of the problems is that the professional footballers in the UK are using it a lot. Okay. There's been an investigation launched a few months ago, I forget exactly when, where they said it's all the way down the leagues, all the way down to the young kids.
To get the nicotine.
They're using,
buzz.
Yeah, and you can, and yes. Yeah. So they've started looking into should we be doing something about this?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think it's a good thing.
When I was talking to one of my daughters about nicotine, she didn't, even though I've shown her the Netflix documentary called Big Vape, even though I've talked regularly with her about vaping, she didn't know nicotine has problems connected with it. Really? Actually systemic problems with nicotine. She thought nicotine's not a problem.
Oh, wow.
So when I discussed it again with her, and she said, what do you mean? And I showed her the article. She went, oh, okay.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So we really, really have to be very clear in the message about because the snus is nicotine.
Yes.
So it's not probably, so they all go, it's not smoking. So yes, it's way better than smoking for you. It's way, we're nowhere near some of the toxic things that smoking does, but...
Yeah, mine were the other way round, I think. They were wondering why cigarettes were so much worse, and then we had the conversation about all the tar and the awful stuff. But the nicotine, they were aware was a bad idea. Yeah,
and the problem is that the tobacco industry, I've read a book on this, way back when, 70s, all got together and they went, we've got a bit of a problem because we really are starting to get enough scientific evidence to say this is awful. But what they did was they started paying scientists to do research that would then confuse it by saying, but these people used cigarettes and they didn't get anything.
Yes.
And then they've got people get they're like, I don't know who to trust.
They muddy the messaging.
They muddy the message. And then I've seen some articles in scientific journals where it was completely like, there's nothing wrong with vaping. And I just read it and thought, okay, this person, whoever wrote this, has been paid very well. Yes. So we need to look out for these things and point them out and go, that's not really, that's true. Anyway, if you're listening and you like hearing us chat every now and then, I'm not going to do this all the time, but if you like hearing a bit of a news roundup about what's been going on and what's been affecting parenting, just ping us a note just saying, that was good, or no, I hated it, wish you'd just get to a topic, one topic. We just want to know that. I'd love to know.
On a lighter note, my younger boy, I think I've mentioned this before, is deciding he's going to make a rival podcast.
When? Just when?
Well, that's what I've said. I've said, come on, bring it on.
Yes.
Interviewing teenagers. And I think the idea at the moment is to kind of go back and listen to, because he doesn't listen to it, listen to it and go, right, your mum said this.
Yes. What
do you think? What actually happened? Could be quite fun. And I've again said, I've sent him a link going, this is how you make a podcast, because I got sent an article. Come on, get on with it.
And I'm looking forward to the feedback. Bring it on. We'll use snippets in our, if you like.
he thinks he's going to make loads of money from it. And I've gone, it doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah. How's the money rolling in for you, Susie?
I am absolutely drowning in it.
Yeah, filthy Luca over here too. Anyway,
we ended on a laugh, so that was good.
Well, you can leave the review on a podcast app. You can contact us via our website, www.teenagersuntangled.com, teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. Susie, how can they contact you?
They can find me on my website, where you can find links to all my social media platforms, and that is www.amindful-life.co.uk.
And you're going to be doing lots more stuff on LinkedIn, because she's a businesswoman. She's doing work. She's working in the business world as well.
Experimenting
as all this
and
nice
pivoting.
stuff. Yeah, so there's going to be some interesting stuff on there, as well as her Instagram. That's it for now. Hit that follow button. Just right now, before you do anything else, just go and hit the follow button, because that's how people find us.
Yeah, it does help.
And then you won't miss another episode. Yeah. This really good episode that we're planning.
Well, I've had a lot of fun.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.